What's up, Brave Endeavors mountain bike strength training program? We are going to kick things off here with some single leg hops. So what you're working on here is some lateral side-to-side motion, some explosivity out of one leg, along with a lot of stabilization in your lower body. Okay, so I want you to do like 8 to 10 of these on one leg and then do the other leg. A common question I get is, what leg do I start on? So the way to answer that is think about what leg you want to start on and then start on the other leg. Okay, because whatever leg you want to start on is going to be your stronger leg. So single leg hops, here we go. Done your single leg hops, you've given yourself a good warm up, you're ready to go. Next up, goblet squats. Okay, so grab a kettlebell and then you're gonna swing it up and hold it here in the goblet position. And what you wanna be doing here is focusing on keeping your chest up, pushing your knees out, and then staying nice and stable through your core. Okay, and so you're gonna squat down, make sure your chest stays up and that you're not leaning over or rounding your upper back, okay? And then come up. And when you come up, make sure you're pushing your knees apart and that your knees aren't caving in. So again, up. Okay, so feet are going to be hip distance apart, maybe a little bit wider. And then you're thinking about pushing your feet into the ground and pushing the ground away from you. Next up, we have stagger stance strict press using dumbbells. So what you're gonna do here, go ahead, pick up your dumbbells, get them up on your shoulders, and then put yourself into a staggered stance, or the stance you would use for riding your bike, and then switch your feet, okay? So I want you to start in the stance that you don't normally ride in, and then you're pressing the dumbbells straight up overhead, locking out the arms, and coming right back down. And what you're gonna do is 5 with your feet in one position, and then switch, and 5 in the other position. My shoulders are so cracky. All right, so that's the stagger stance strict press. All right, so now we have kettlebell Romanian deadlifts. So the first thing I want you to do before you pick up the weight is just understand the hip hinge, okay? So with the hip hinge, what we're looking for is hamstring engagement. So what I want you to do is shift your hips back, and I like to think about as if you were closing a car door with your butt, okay? So hips go back. Now your knees bend as a result of your hips going back. But the first motion should not be bending your knees. The first motion should be closing the car door with your butt, okay? So your hips are gonna go back until you feel your hamstrings engage, okay? And that's where you know you're in the right position. Now this looks different for everybody based on your flexibility. And so for some people, their torso comes down a lot more, and that's when they feel the stretch. But for me, I'm pretty tight, so I feel it when I'm about here. So do that motion a few times. Not only is that gonna warm up your hamstrings, but it's also just gonna get you familiar with the sensation that you're looking for once you add weight, okay? So then, you're gonna grab some kettlebells. You can also do this with dumbbells, and you're gonna do that same motion, okay? So closing the car door with your butt, until you feel it in your hamstrings, and then you're standing up. Hips go back, stand up. And when you stand up, you don't want to overextend, okay? You're just standing up, nice and neutral, hips are going back, and stand. And with any sort of hamstring exercise, these can really sneak up on you. I like to call them the sneaker exercise, because you'll often feel like you could do it with way more weight, but then the next day, you're gonna regret it. Okay, so especially with this exercise, go really light. You could do it just with body weight, or maybe add 10 pounds. See how you feel the next day, okay? And then start adding more weight. So then we have the Kettlebell Gorilla Row. This is one of my favorite pull-in exercises. And so one of the reasons this is so effective for cyclists is that when we're riding our bike, we're down low, our quads are engaged, our hamstrings are engaged, but we need to be loose with our upper body, right? We need to be able to pull up on the bars, push the bike away from us. And so we're really strengthening our back with this exercise, but in a position where our legs stay engaged. So our kettlebells are on the floor. And then you want a nice tight core through your midsection, and then you're gonna pull back, hold for a second, back down. Hold, down. So make sure your chest and spine are neutral here, that you're not rounding, and that you're not craning your neck up either. And that when you lower down, your arm comes to full extension, so your arm is straight. And then when you pull up, you want to think about having your shoulder blade moving down and then together. So, like that. Okay, so to finish things off, we have 3 core exercises. We're gonna start out with a plank hollow hold Tabata. So the way Tabata works is you work for 20 seconds and then take a 10-second rest. And we're gonna alternate between 2 exercises, plank and hollow hold. So for the plank, I want you to be on your forearms. And because it's only 20 seconds, this should be a full body engagement. So you should be squeezing your abs, you should be squeezing your glutes. Your whole body should feel like it's on fire for the duration of that 20 seconds. A couple pointers. Make sure your back is flat. Okay, so we don't want to have our hips too high or too low. Okay, so you're going to be in this nice neutral spine position, squeezing for 20 seconds. Whew, that was a fast 20 seconds, but really hard. Then rest 10 seconds, flip over, and get into the hollow hold. So for hollow hold, you're positioning yourself on your lumbar, and it's really important that your lower back stays in contact with the ground. So I like to think about pressing my belly button through my spine and making sure I can't get a hand underneath my lower back. Okay, so then the hold part is here. If this is too hard, bring your hands in front of you. And if this is still too hard, bring your feet up higher, okay? This could be your hollow hold. That's totally fine. You're gonna get a lot stronger holding this for periods of 20 seconds, okay? But make sure your lower back is in contact with the floor here. So you're gonna do plank 20 seconds, rest 10 seconds, flip over, hollow hold 20 seconds, rest 10 seconds, and then back to plank. And that's the plank hollow hold Tabata. So then, to finish things up, you're gonna do Russian twists with a weight. Okay, so the Russian twist, you're balanced on your hips, and you wanna make sure your chest is up. Okay, so you don't wanna be rounding your back. And feet are pointing straight ahead, not crossed. And when you're doing this, try to keep your lower body as still as you can. So you don't wanna be like wobbling side to side. Okay, so chest is up. I'm trying to keep my legs relatively quiet. And then I'm rotating side to side. And some people do it where they tap the ground. I don't like to tap because what I find is you relax every time you do it. So I think that you'll get a greater workout if you keep the weight up. And that's the sample workout. Go ahead, give it a try. Let me know how it goes. Let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to reach out on Instagram or email me. You can email me at braveendeavors@gmail.com. On Instagram, I'm Becca_brave.endeavors. And I hope you love it. Share it with your friends, tell your family, get strong.